Hey guys, this is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scale was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.
Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. This week we're joined by Mark Willis, the CEO of Accor for Turkey, India, Middle East and Africa. Previous to Mark's appointment, he was the Asia region with Movenpick Hotels and Resorts. So Accor is a worldwide leader in hospitality, the biggest hospitality group in Europe, and they take care of millions of guests all around the world, holding 5,100 addresses, and I think that figure is always going up. Today we'll talk to Mark about the story of Accor, its long-established success, the hospitality industry, and how it is pushing ahead in post-pandemic, and the future of the hospitality industry, and what we can also expect from Accor. So, good morning, Mark.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks very much for your time, and thanks for joining the podcast today.
No, thank you. Thanks for the invite.
We had a quick chat offline. It looks like you're in a very contemporary, modern space. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in here in Media City, Dubai, and it's got a very lifestyle feeling. Our office. I'm in my office, but I didn't want one. I must say, I spend more time outside in the public area, in the coffee area with the guys and with the team and with owners. So yeah, very contemporary space.
So your office is for podcasts and interviews instead. Great. Well, yeah, so just off that intro, can you tell us a little bit more about your role, the region, and Accor's presence?
Sure, no problem. I'm many years in the region, over 20 years coming up to. I'm not getting any younger, that's for sure. So I'm a long time here, long time in Dubai, although I've worked all over the region, obviously traveled extensively, more than most people actually. I think 2019 I was 126 flights, so much of my role is traveling between owners and various events, promoting Accor and promote a wonderful portfolio of over 40 brands. Here in the region we are over 400 hotels, close to 90,000 keys, and as you said, from an Accor perspective, globally over 5,000 hotels, and we continue this for sure.
Amazing.
Huge portfolio of hotels. Yeah, India, Turkey, Middle East is big for us, of course. 141 hotels, and as is Africa, and with a number one brand here, the major operator in all the key locations across the region.
So yeah, so for scale, numbers are massive, but for people who aren't really familiar with the hotel industry, largely speaking, there are some premium, there are some, not the word premium, but there are some key players, global conglomerates, groups that have a franchise and ownership model, and they may have brands underneath. You mentioned 40 brands, but they would have brands underneath, and how does that kind of, how is someone who is just, one of those keys and doesn't know the structure, who owns what?
Listen, it's one, it's an interesting topic, and two, it's an ever-changing topic as the industry is consolidating under the big brands. And not to make my competitors, of course, but we are in the hospitality industry, so you can be pleasant at all times. Joking aside, obviously you've got the big brands: Accor, Marriott, Hilton, IHG, to name a few. Under those headline brands, you have the supporting brands of that infrastructure. So for Marriott and Hilton, obviously there's the various brands underneath those, and for Accor, there's various brands per segment, from mid-scale eco to luxury to ultra luxury. So mid-scale eco with regards to Ibis, premium brands where you've got things like Movenpick, Novotel, luxury brands, Fairmont, Sofitel,
yeah,
and Raffles sitting at ultra luxury, Raffles and Orient Express.
It is fascinating. And how is that changing? Skipping ahead a little bit, but you mentioned it was always changing.
If you can see, there's a huge shift over the last 5 years into the leisure arena and also the lifestyle. Business hotels, everybody knows. Resort hotels, everybody knows. But all-inclusive luxury is a relatively new segment of business, of which Rixos leads the way in that segment by far. It's such a wonderful all-inclusive brand at the highest level, and we're lucky enough to have Rixos within our portfolio. Another key shift is into the lifestyle segment, which we mentioned before, not least the relevance to this office. Desire for a lifestyle stay and a lifestyle experience while you're at a hotel, that has increased dramatically in recent. From an Accor perspective, over the last 6 months, you see the integration and merger with Ennismore, Hoxton as a lifestyle brand, and Accor, who has the SBE portfolio as a lifestyle brand. So Mama Shelter, 25 Hours, Delano, Mondrian, and Hyde. And these brands are being very heavily developed. They have an interest from people that want to invest, and it's a really growing segment, additional segment. So that's a good point with regards to change and how the industry is developing from your perspective.
Fascinating. And when people get their head into this space, they can see how much it touches all of our lives, all of our brands. There's so many different nuances to the hospitality sector. In many ways, it spills over to F&B, of course. But just at this region, when you mention those numbers for this region, are we talking about Turkey, India, Middle East, and Africa? Is that a unique structure to Accor, or is that simply sort of the territories that you oversee?
No, I listen, the various organizations have different infrastructures in place. Some organizations run their business out of Europe with regards to the Middle East. From an Accor perspective, we have offices in all the key locations here. Morocco, Saudi Arabia, which is obviously critical for us, to name but a few. No more so than here in Dubai, where we have a huge footprint and portfolio. We're very close to the market, very close to our investors and our owners, and we look to grow and develop our footprint here as much as we can, and deliver on that guest promise and support the guys that are managing the hotels. But we prefer to have the structure and infrastructure here where the business is, rather than in the location.
It's very much an emerging market. So working backwards a little bit, quick Wikipedia search. I'll admit it was quite quick, but well, just in terms of how the group was established, it's a French company listed in Paris. How did it origin up until now? And with regards to also maybe finishing with the point of difference that you feel Accor offers versus its group competitors?
I mean, the company's got a wonderful history, and I'm relatively. I'm with the organization 3 years.
Okay.
It's very interesting to look back and see where the company came from. It was very French-centric, and subsequently very European-centric. Predominantly owned hotels through those early years under the early leadership of the company. Over the 11 years under Sébastien Bazin, there's been a shift in the organization, much more towards an asset-light infrastructure, which is very managed hotels and franchise. But Accor is predominantly a managed hotel infrastructure versus the other brands, which are more focused on franchise. You can see over the last 5-6 years how the company has grown and developed. It's trebled its brand portfolio. Its footprint has grown very, very aggressively outside the US and outside China. For the most part, Accor on the ground in any market, regardless of where you are. And again, when you're talking about Europe, Middle East, Africa, they're huge markets, and and we're definitely the top player in those markets. So the company has grown dramatically. What it's been able to do very, very well is hold on to its footprint and its belief in those individual brands. It is very, very careful to maintain brand quality and the brand essence and uniqueness. And I think it's a real differentiating factor for Accor, along with people first perspective of Accor, which is something very new to me at this level. It's a huge company with a lot of employees, 300,000 plus, over 5,000 hotels, as we mentioned. However, it is a personal company. And you'll hear a lot of senior leaders talk about such topic, but really at Accor, it is not just a conversational piece. There's a real focus on the people. If I look at a very difficult year or 14 months that we've just had within our industry, obviously a lot of industries impacted globally, and no more so than our industry, by the way, which has been so heavily hit on a number of fronts. And, all other organizations within the sector focusing very close to home, of course, from the onset was, okay, what about our people? What about our owners? And very, very quickly, they put together, with the approval of our amazing board, by the way, in the forefront of this controversy that suddenly engulfed the world. They put together a Heartist Fund, 70 million euros, in order to support our team members impacted by the pandemic. We are heavily using that fund today in our area. So many people assisted with the fund. I that would be some horribly bureaucratic process to release funds and assist, but that hasn't been the case, and it's been a wonderful fund to have, and still being heavily utilized. Actually, it's been super. So, brand essence and putting it are the key elements of Accor and what makes it different.
And that would obviously, as you said, come through in the pandemic, and we'll touch on that as well, as we kind of we see travel opening up a bit and more occupancy and everything like that. But just intentioned, managed and franchised and owned, can you explain the difference and also how you approach them? I think it's fascinating in terms of as you mentioned, asset light, and obviously maybe in the hospitality sector, going back before there was a kind of global brand rollout, that most hotels would have a proprietor who owns the brand. And how did that change, Mark, over the years? How did it become, was there one global brand who said, okay, we're just going to do a franchise all over the world, and everyone else did it? Or how did the business model evolve?
I mean, it was evolved in the early years, but the key instigator there of change is digitalization, in my opinion. And again, there's people that are far better than me, so maybe I'm incorrect, of course. But my perspective is very much, you have an investor that wants to build and invest in an asset, and then you have expertise that is needed to manage and operate that entity, that business. And that expertise has become technical and much more difficult outside the norms of the hotel business, food and beverage, guest service, guest quality. It's become a much more difficult industry from a knowledge. You need expertise, and with that digitalization, you need reach. And the brands, if you look at an organization like what we offer is all those topics in a bundle and your asset for you. Now, if you've got as an example, an experienced owner that has a number of properties, understand management, they understand that dynamic, they understand brand quality, so they have that infrastructure in, and what they are missing is loyalty and reach and digital of a large organization. So taking a franchise route would be perfect for that owner. For an owner that is just looking to invest and entrust their asset to an organization, this is where a managed contract is or a managed agreement is more suitable. The owner can literally take a step back and let an organization like Accor utilize one of its brands to promote the hotel and move forward accordingly.
Okay.
And it's in very simple terms, but it works.
I'm starting to understand it now. Thank you. It's a bit clearer. So, for example, if I'm a guest and I'm familiar with, or I'm on Accor points, I think our colleague Sister Brand in Love in Dubai just gave away 1 million points.
That's right. Yeah, we just ran a campaign. That's right.
With one of your, fine new establishments in SLS Hotel, which looks incredible. I haven't been there, but it looks incredible. But
you need to go. You need to go. It's amazing hotel.
Is this a brand? Sorry.
You touched on food and beverage, and the hotel is fabulous. The infrastructure is fabulous. By the way, they have a wonderful team there, but the food is something to go and experience, really. Okay. It's a very special hotel. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was jumping around the question, but something that people are seeing on their socials and Instagrams, and it does have that fine Burj Khalifa, which is priceless in many ways. But no, I was just wondering about once one arrives at one of your brand hotels like the Fairmont, what might look consistent in terms of quality and service. At what stage would you get involved? Do you get involved in the development stage? Do you get involved in the fit out stage? Or how do you make the brand? How do you maintain the brand physically in all the establishments?
Yeah, the essence of the brand, as I mentioned previously, I think we're particularly good at maintaining that, and just a lot of brands. So it's something that you need to focus on. Otherwise, the brands will start to cross over and seep into each other. So ideally, you start with a greenfield site and you go through the process of design and pre-opening and opening. And as you go through those stages, the various key elements of the brand are controlled and maintained from the team here in Dubai or in another location. There's also a scenario where, as a hotel company, we will take already operational unbranded hotel. And in that scenario, invariably, you end up, they call a PIP, a property improvement plan, in order to make sure that hotel as it stands today, and by the way, it's operating, the certain changes that they need to make, they make in order for the hotel to be branded, whether it be Fairmont or Sofitel, Pullman, Novotel, any of the other brands.
And what's the most common approach, Mark, in Dubai or in the region that you've seen? Is it more from a real estate point of view as an investment, and they would like the managed service, the brand? Or are there a lot of people who are looking for franchises who are also operational and would like your partnership? What would the split be?
No, I mean, it's definitely an 80-20 split, 80% managed and 20% franchise for Accor.
Okay.
Other brands take a different approach with regards to very careful what we franchise. Very careful. We don't franchise luxury up. We're careful with what we franchise. The owner needs to have a certain amount of knowledge in order to protect the brand and also the guest experience. Sometimes that works perfectly fine. But for the most part, we're a managed organization in the area. I have just over 20 hotels that are franchised of over 400. So it's a relatively small number.
Okay.
The managed approach, as I said, is much more all-encompassing. And for the most part, people that deal with Accor, they come with that. We would like to trust you. You're an international company, international brand standards, and internationally recognized by both leisure and business travelers. Here's our asset, and we'd like you to manage it for us.
Okay, interesting. I can see why in these places then, because if you're managing most of it locally, then you'll need your hotel managers, but also the digitals and the brands to provide that as well. And do you do the training in those countries? And how does the recruitment and the training in the hospitality sector work for Accor?
Yeah, listen, it's a cornerstone element of what we do. And again, unlike the approach of some of our peers. We take you need to be on the ground in order to support that business approach, whether it be Morocco or Cairo or Johannesburg or here in Dubai, Riyadh, and Turkey, Istanbul, Delhi for India. You need to be to interact with those hotels, and you need to visit those properties, interact with those owners, support those teams, regardless of what the topic may be. And from a recruitment perspective, there's very succinct formats and dynamics with regards to recruitment, making sure that you're bringing the right people for that brand and that location. And as culturally, you need to be fully integrated within that culture. It's no good appointing somebody that would fit perfectly in Turkey into Delhi. That just doesn't work. So a lot of effort goes into recruiting the right people from GM ranks at a property level.
And so if I'm in the hospitality industry, or I'm just trained in the university, or just done a course, and I would like to be a hotel manager, and I join, what would be my career trajectory within Accor? What would be my first role? How long is the average stay in a hotel, and is it a global job, or do I hold it down in one?
You know, I'm the wrong person. I'm a passionate hotelier, and I'm a really good example of how hospitality works. And there are not too many industries that the opportunities of this industry. I'm a chef. I started in the kitchen. I started in the wash shop, actually.
Oh, wow.
And progressed into the kitchen. The industry has offered me the opportunity over the world, educated to a master's degree level, which again I've done as part of my career. And there's a wonderful level of opportunity in the industry if you have the right attitude and the right aptitude. The world is literally your oyster. It's a very transient industry. People move between the brands. Accor, by the way, has got a fabulous statistic with regards to holding on to its people and moving them internationally if they wish to move. Some people don't want to move, of course, but opportunity to do your studies in London or Europe, and then move directly from there to Dubai or Singapore or Hong Kong or to the Sydney office. It's I don't believe it's similar to any other industry from that perspective. There really is a world of opportunity in hospitality, especially for anybody young coming into the industry. I think it's a huge opportunity going forward.
Maybe especially in this region as well. I actually personally had some hotel jobs when I was younger. Everything from
which many people do, right?
Yeah.
Which many people do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and to put it in perspective and to stick it out to see where you would end up, because we, especially people who work in the industry, and they would be seconded. And I was just at a hotel the other day, and it was announced at Irish Business Network that the treasurer who is managing that hotel is moving to Bristol and Warsaw, and it got me thinking of I'm here for a while. Like, yeah, it's like a football manager or something. We jump around to different places, different gigs. It's fascinating. Absolutely. But also, so is the the different roles that you would have. What's your favorite role? What's your best experience? Was it as in the kitchen or which is
such a terrible question?
Pick a favorite.
Listen, I'm a creator, and I love what I do. I love my job. I'm super passionate about the industry. Sebastian, our chairman and CEO, always refers to it as a blessed industry, and it truly is a blessed industry. We work in a wonderful industry. My perspective, the kitchen is always going to have a special place in my heart. I love to cook, and I sometimes say to different owners, "Come to Dubai. I take you to the best restaurant in Dubai," and then they ask me to my house and cook. So I still love the kitchen.
Amazing.
My wife's a lucky lady.
That's great to hear. But what's your view then, Mark, on whether a hotel should bring in restaurant brands or have their own brands? And what's the kind of split within your group as well?
Yeah, listen, it's an interesting. There's a there's a lot of very well-known brands, restaurant brands out there. No more so than today. And what's fabulous to see at the less expensive of the scale, the quality of food and the increase in expectation, which has driven that, has improved dramatically. So that's something to comment on. I think it's a real shift. You know, it used to be that you needed to spend a lot of money to get a meal experience, and today that's not the case. So that's my first point. The second point for me, I think a mix of the two. As hotel operators, we have our own brands, we have our own concepts, our own design, our own kitchen teams, of course. But in some locations, you know, it's right to bring out external operator, which we do. It's not that we don't do it too much, but we do that. It can be that you have a 300-400 bedroom Fairmont and has 6 restaurants, and you outsource one or you outsource 2 and operate the others yourself. So I think a mix, not a bad thing if it suits that location. And again, like I say, what's nice is today you can put a burger restaurant into a high quality hotel, and that doesn't downgrade them. I'm not talking about one of the fast food brands, but today there is some wonderful burger concepts out there, which everybody's aware of, and the quality of food is super high. So I think it's a really interesting topic. And core perspective, the lifestyle hotels that we have in Delano and Hyde and Mondrian and Mama Shelter, they have wonderful restaurant concepts, Katsuya, etc., etc. And I think you'll see those become ever more prevalent as we move forward.
Interesting, fascinating concepts as well, to kind of get the right mix. So 2 questions around the region. One more specific about Saudi Arabia in the context of what we talked about in hospitality, and there's like 1 million people will be trained within Saudi Arabia to work in the sector as part of the Vision 2030. There are huge mega gigaport projects around tourism and hospitality. How do you view that? How do you approach something like, say, the Red Sea development in terms of Accor's involvement from the start?
Listen, Saudi Arabia, close to my heart. I've been going in and out of the kingdom for so many years. It's wonderful to see what has gone on there in the last 10 years. It's become much more progressive location. Then, not least in the last 5 years with Vision 2030. They have visionary leadership, they have desire to the perspective of the country, and they have a real focus on tourism along with this Vision 2030 and how they see that being developed. The religious tourism aside, because that's obviously huge. And in the kingdom, again, Accor is the biggest operator, 10,000 employees on the ground. We have a huge footprint today, and we're involved in all the giga projects, heavily involved even from the onset, not least if you look at the project, which if you fly down that coastline and have a look at what is about to be opened up, it is truly magnificent. Really, I cannot say. If you look at Saudi Arabia, and I mentioned this, or a colleague in perspective, there's 2 locations in the world where very few people have been. One is the North Pole, and the other is Saudi Arabia. And it sounds like it's the truth. It's a reality. And Saudi Arabia has some of the most amazing architectural sites. If you look at a site like
Petra, yeah.
Well, I was going to reference, if you look at Petra, which is a site that people know, they've seen photographs on Instagram, social media, etc. Really, when you see Alula, it is jaw-dropping for the first time. And so many people are going to get to experience that under a new hotel experience as it opens up. and they're being careful with their infrastructure. They're really being environmentally focused, which is wonderful to see, not least in the Red Sea, which is a piece of coastline, and very few people have ever dived there. Mm. If you look at Red Sea, Egypt, a piece at the top of the peninsula, which is Sharm el Sheikh and Hurghada, and then down the coast you have this huge coastline that nobody's ever been on, and the beach and the sea, and unbelievable. It's going to be wonderful for Saudi Arabia. Wonderful.
Very exciting.
Wonderful for tourism in general.
Yeah, amazing. You make it sound so exciting. we see that.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
Wow, cool. So as well, talking about the opportunity in the region, describe to people who aren't familiar with Arabian hospitality when it comes to your business. How is it special? Is it different? I certainly feel it is, but how would you kind of describe it, and especially linking that to Dubai? How does that add to the tourism industry that we have here?
I mean, we're fortunate here in the Middle East. We have a huge service culture, and again, that's that feeling you get when you go to a hotel here, regardless of the segment. There is a really positive service culture here. Also, I think it's fair to say the quality of the hotel product here is high, and the quality of the restaurant experience throughout the Middle East is particularly high. Not least, people come into the area in huge numbers, and it needs to be great. Otherwise, you'll obviously struggle to retain guests. From a Dubai perspective, it's a little bit of a comment plus. Dubai is a special location. Look at the way they've handled the pandemic. Total collaboration between the industry from a tourism perspective. It's been wonderful. Super communication throughout what has been a horrible period. I think globally, Dubai, UAE has led the pandemic, led the recovery, and you can see that in the city. The way that it's handled vaccination, tourism, leisure, visa, it's been unbelievable. Seriously, and I don't make the statement lightly. I'm a little biased. I live here. I'm plus in Dubai. My children are all born here, so yes, I'm a little biased. But the reality is, Dubai is one of the only locations in the world that you can travel in and out of safely and in a positive manner. The airport experience is wonderful compared to many locations, and I have done some traveling recently. So Dubai has really led the way, I have to say, really led the way.
And interesting, and many people have experienced it, but it's good to hear as well that both Dubai and the government within your group, that your group, you mentioned earlier, that fund to be able to support people and to support your partners, sure. And that the staff have kind of kept going. And is that marked towards the positive outlook of H2 2020 and 2021, and then the bounce back or the kind of enthusiasm? Do you think, broad question, but do you think this sort of pent up appetite for travel and tourism will really help global economy, and that we will have a good few years ahead?
Firstly, if you're after any kind of negativity, you ain't going to get it from me, that's for sure.
Great, listen, but
yeah, no choice. Listen, as I mentioned before, it's been 14 months. We've seen a positive start to the year, but you have awful situation in India currently going on. Turkey sitting in a lockdown. Morocco still has many controls. Saudi Arabia opening up slowly, and the UAE I've commented on. But if you look forward, if we look in brief from where we sit today, we are where we thought we would be last quarter 2020, which is positive, because it was very difficult to see any kind of future outlook last year in the first half of the year. So we are where we thought. Q3 looks very positive. Q4 here we have Expo. I think you'll see Saudi Arabia open its doors a little bit more towards religious. Business will return, business travel will return. And then as you get into 2022 Q1, Q2, I think you'll see the fallout of this pent-up mentioned. Leisure-wise, we can see there's a huge desire today to travel to leisure destination because people have not been able to travel. And I think that will really kick in Q4 into Q1 2022. But also, and again, there's some differing view perspective, is Teams is wonderful, WebEx is wonderful, and it's served a fantastic, for me, a little bit old-fashioned. I still think people want to do business face-to-face. I've attended a number of face-to-face meetings and conferences in the last weeks. People are so pleased and so positive to interact face-to-face with colleagues and intermediaries and business partners. I also think that you'll see business bounce back. I think, obviously, meeting and events and large conference events, the segments of business and definitely leisure is going to come back very strongly, I believe.
Okay, that was going to lead to my next question. I thought I might catch you on that, of something that you might be worried about in terms of business travel, this occupancy, but no, I'm positive. That's great.
Yeah. Worried. No, I stick is the word I would use. You know, business travel. Not only is there the constraints with regards to safety and travel, the difficulties around travel with regards to PCR tests, etc. There's also the economic constraints where many businesses have been economic perspective over the last 14 months, and that'll obviously take time to recover and return. So that'll be the segment that for me will take the longest to recover, will be the meeting and event segment. But business will return and leisure will return positively, I believe.
Yeah, so I guess, related to what would worry you, Mark, what are the industry things that you have to keep up with? Is it the digital trends? Is it human behavior shifts? We've touched on that in the screens. So the sharing economy and this recently big listed company, in terms of, how do you worry about that sort of these trends? Is the industry live and well? And how do you keep up? How do you adapt? How do you keep changing a huge group?
I'm super fortunate to not worry about too much. I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. I'm particularly good at surrounding myself with the most fantastic people to not worry too much. I have an amazing team here in Dubai and out in the hubs. Super wonderful group of general managers who that's worth mentioning, who've brought us through this pandemic really well. As always, I'm humbled by the way people react to adversity. And no, I'm not worried. I think the industry will bounce back very positively. I think it'll always be an industry that people will want to work in and get a little bit hooked. You're really hooked. There's no way out. There's no way after a period in hotels you're going to work in a bank or something else structured. We fall in love with the industry. So no, I think the outlook is positive. Yes, it's been difficult the last 14 months, but if you look forward, no, I'm not worried. I think we're in a good position today to improve as we get in and out of next year.
Brilliant. Good note to finish on. It's, I must say it's great to see that group has a strong presence in the region, and it backs up a lot of what we ask on this show really a lot, and I'll finish with is the Middle East an emerging market, and if so, will it emerge? And maybe your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I listen. I've been pitching the Middle East as a positive emerging market for a long time. It is an emerging market, of course it is, but also it is a maturing market in a number of locations. If there's a better hospitality landscape by anywhere in the world, I don't know where it is, and I know everywhere. And I've worked in many of those locations as well. There's many positives to history in our area, and I think the future for the Middle East looks particularly bright.
Mark, I think you're the perfect guest for Dubai Works Business Podcast. So thank you very much for your time today and the positive outlook. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.